Welcome to the Growth Zone. I am Christian Bartsch and I have a really interesting session for you today. How to actually get paid from your business. That's today's topic. And there we will be looking into following three items. And first, what are the most important things that entrepreneurs are doing right with their money, not realizing their true potential? Second, how can you effectively discover what lenders actually care about? And how to actually get paid from your business while it is enjoying a sustainable growth. I will be speaking with Tracey Bissett. Tracey is on a mission to redefine the world's economic future by increasing the financial literacy of entrepreneurs, also known as financial fitness. With over 20 years of experience in the financial services industry, Tracey can help entrepreneurs across all industries, both online and offline. As a founder and president and chief financial fitness trainer at Bissett Financial Fitness Incorporated, Tracey helps her clients understand and improve their level of financial fitness, with a goal of increasing confidence using their financial skills so they can be successful in their financial lives. In addition, Tracey is a professor at Centennial College School of Business and regularly leads speaking engagements to increase financial fitness awareness. Tracey enjoys giving back to the community and actively volunteers with Therapeutic Paws of Canada, United Way and Junior Achievement of Central Ontario. Let's welcome Tracey, and that's what we'll be talking today about. I think Tracey will be as well telling us a little bit more about herself, and we'll go directly into the three topics I introduced just before this. So we are now going to start first with Tracey telling us a little bit about herself so that we have a better understanding, and then we will go into the three topics that we have for today.
Thank you so much, Christian. I'm really excited to be here. So I live in Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. And as you mentioned in my bio, I'm a former executive at a North American bank and really loved my time at the bank because I was supporting entrepreneurs. And now I've taken the best of what I enjoyed there and really do that in my financial coaching practice for entrepreneurs. And I really love the opportunity to be able to work with entrepreneurs to help them better understand their numbers, their financial statements, and certainly their cash flow cycle so they can grow their business the way they really want to. And a couple fun things about me: I love live music and I love roller coasters.
Great. So, then let's have a look at our first topic. What are the most important things, or what most entrepreneurs are doing right with their money, not realizing actually their potential that they can do?
Well, oftentimes when I work with entrepreneurs, Christian, they tell me that they're bad at numbers, they're not sure what to do, and they don't have a lot of confidence in their money skills. And we all know you start a business because you're extremely passionate about what it is that you do, and that's usually the overriding thing. And you don't generally have any training or teachings or learnings that you've acquired in the finance space. So the thing that I find that most entrepreneurs are doing right, that if they've been in business for any length of time, if they've been doing it for a while, they certainly know how to manage cash flow. And cash flow is the lifeblood of any business. Certainly, you can be very profitable on paper, have lots of sales, and you're generating your expenses, obviously. But if people don't pay you for those sales, you can go out of business in as quick as 90 days. And so whether it's from a survival instinct or it's just a natural ability they have, most entrepreneurs are able to manage that cash flow cycle and weather the ups and downs of cash flow. And so they may not describe it the way that I do, and they may not plan it the way that I do, but they're certainly, if they've been in business for some time, they are experts at managing cash flow.
I definitely agree with that, because I see as well so often that businesses are really going extremely low in cash flow when clients are not paying, and depending as well on different time frames. If they don't get the cash in, or they don't actually start reminding the people that they have to pay the invoices, they get legal issues. For instance, in our country, for instance, in Germany, if you don't send an invoice, let's say you've been providing certain kind of services and you don't send in the invoice within a certain period, whether it's within 30 days, 14 days, or 90 days of having done it, the client doesn't have to actually pay it, because he could go and say, well, I cannot even check whether this is really what's been done, because it's so long ago. I have no clue whether I'm actually paying for what has been actually been done. That's something even if you have timesheets and you can see, okay, from this 5 hours, from this time to this hour time, this and this has been done. It's difficult, of course, and then it's something that someone can use as well to cut the amount that they have to pay. Mm-hmm. But if you, as you said, if you get things done properly and running, then you'll have your cash flow, and it'll be much easier to do. And and that's absolutely, and as you said as well, it is absolutely necessary so that you are really successful, and not just on paper. And that actually, that's why I think it's so good that if we look at what is really effective and important, because the question arises, and then if in everybody's entrepreneur's minds, whether you're a startup or your existing company and you want to maybe spin off, do something new, or even go into a joint venture, how can you effectively discover what lenders actually care about?
And that's a really good question. And so I was a lender for a long time, and I was actually in the adjudication department where they approved loans. And so kind of at a high level, lenders are looking for companies to finance and to support them in their growth, where management is credible. They have plans. They're working towards their goals. They're able to talk about their financial results. And especially if you've had some challenges in the past, maybe you showed a year of losses or a couple year of losses, the lender's really concerned about, well, what happened there? What did you learn, and how are you going to make sure that that doesn't happen again? So really important that you understand your results. One of the things I see consistently with entrepreneurs is they either don't look at the numbers at all, or they completely delegate it to an accountant or a bookkeeper. So when it comes time to talk to a lender, they can't actually talk about the numbers. And that's challenging for a lot of reasons. Just in terms of the process, the way it works, when you go to see a lender and you're applying for some credit, they're going to take your financial statements and run them through a software that crunches all the financial ratios. So does this company have enough money to pay their bills? They're looking at liquidity. How is this company funded? Is there more debt than equity? Just like if you're thinking about your personal life, how are you funding everything? And so on. If they're going to give you a loan that needs to be repaid over time, does this company have the ability, that debt service ability, to make those payments over a certain period of time? And so it's okay to have had challenges. You just want to be able to speak to what you're doing differently so they can get a sense of your capabilities and credibility as management. And it's also really important, if you are looking for an operating line of credit or something that's fluctuating, that you do have a cash flow forecast to show them, so they can see when you expect to be using it, when you don't, what those peaks and valleys will be, so that as things are then happening after it's approved, they can monitor to say, does this look like what we signed up for? And if not, what's going on in the company? I highly recommend people develop relationships with lenders as soon as they start their business, because you want to establish credit in the business and you want to start that relationship so that it can grow as your business continues to grow and scale.
Yes, that's definitely important because even if it's just your bank, you have to build a relationship with your bank manager or the person who can help you if you have certain issues that can always arise. Or let's say you need to expand your credit limit that you have for going up and down, or you want to do a certain business and you want to have some advice from them because maybe they have some subsidiary overseas. As an example, for instance, several years ago when I went to Canada for a business trip, my bank manager told me as well, hey, you can go to that and that bank in Toronto and you can go and cash money out of your card. You don't even need to use your credit card and it won't charge, you won't have to pay any fees. The same thing as well when I went to America, it was as well the same thing that Deutsche Bank had agreements with Bank of America, which is quite good when you think of it. Many, many years ago, when you used to have like traveler checks and so on, you would pay a fortune of fees in certain countries. I remember my grandfather once coming over from Britain to Germany and wanted to give me a Christmas gift. It was crazy. They charged, I think, 2/3 of the value on the check was taken off as charges. And that was just absolutely horrible, horrible way. But when you think of it today, even if you go towards anything like Bitcoin or that kind of charges, you can always reduce the cost. And even there are plenty of ways with banks that they can do as well a similar kind of service for you. You just need to speak as well with your bank. But at the end of the day, it's still you who has to switch on your head and think about it, whether you're going to take the advice or not, because not every advice of a banker is the right advice that you should take. That's
Very
my
true.
experience as well. You have to always think, especially when it's about investing money, you should say, okay, well, if it's so good, why isn't he doing it himself? Because he otherwise wouldn't be working at the bank. But that's some of the typical things is when you know then what you've been investing and what you made, and the other things really wouldn't have worked out. When you follow it up and think, okay, was my idea better or was the other guy's idea better? Then you notice, mine was better and even maybe more productive. And doesn't mean that has to be highly risky. But yeah, getting paid is of course something that's so important for us as entrepreneurs as well. And in times like today, where you see many companies going out of business, whether it's because people are not spending money or companies haven't got their staff in-house, so they haven't got their ability actually to use services or buy products because they don't need them at the moment. It's like if you were, for instance, in the business of selling coffee for offices. Well, if nobody's in the office, they are not consuming coffee. Same thing would be with air fuel. If no planes are flying, you don't really need air fuel, and you've got plenty of stock. But yeah, you have to do it smart, look ahead. And that's what brings us actually to the third question of today's episode: how to actually get paid from your business while it is enjoying sustainable growth.
Well, that's a great one. So, consistently, when I'm working with entrepreneurs and we do a deep dive into their financial results, I'll ask them how much are they getting paid. And normally, because I'm generally working with entrepreneurs with sales under $2 million, generally they're not taking a consistent paycheck. And I don't think any of them envisioned that that would be the case when they decided to start their own business. And so then we need to take a look at profitability. And usually the culprit is that they're not clear on how much margin, so how much between the price that they're charging and then all their expenses, those variable ones that go into the delivery of the product or service, and then overhead, what's left. And oftentimes they're losing money on their product or service that they're offering. So there's not enough to cover overhead, let alone any to go to the owner. And so I encourage entrepreneurs that I'm working with, especially if they're starting or they've been a few years in business, to really pay attention to those numbers, because it does you a disservice to grow and scale quickly if you're losing money on everything that you do. You want to make sure that on a small scale, if you're not profitable, you know at what point it will turn, because there's obviously going to be a break even with the number of units that you sell, whether it's service or product based, and make sure you're monitoring that. If you're doing a job in the company and that you would have to pay someone to do it, get that expense in right away, because you need to be able to see on a real basis if this company is profitable. And then you may choose to take additional compensation as the owner out, maybe in a different way as dividends or repayment of shareholder loans or something like that. But really important that you focus on the numbers, make modest changes in your business so that you can be profitable. And a lot of times it comes down to just acquiring a few more sales or tightening up the efficiency of the operation so that you can make as much money on each sale as you need to without jeopardizing your customer service or the value that you're providing.
Yeah, that's definitely good and true, because if I see as well, if you increase the prices to a certain level, then of course you'll always be losing clients at the bottom, and it takes some time until you get new clients at the top. So if you imagine you have let's say you have a product that's been selling at $60 and you decide to sell it at $80 because you notice, okay, I need to have $80 so that I'm really profitable and can pay at least a decent amount. It's not like going crazy from $60 to $120, but it still will be plenty of people who are not willing to pay $80, and they think, okay, it's only worth 60, and there'll eventually be people coming and say, well, I'm willing to pay $80 and I'm fine with it and it's okay. And there'll always plenty of people who will say, well, $80, that's too cheap. It's crazy. Once, when I was working for a corporate, we once had a system that we were going to buy, and it was I think $17,000 what the equipment cost. And my boss said, that sounds a little bit cheap. Why is it so cheap? The product was really super, and we bought it and we used it over several years, and we added more and more. And then I think we spent $120,000 on it over the years, buying more and more stuff and adding. But as the tool as well grew, it wasn't just one fixed thing and we just bought updates, but we actually increased the license, added new stuff, introduced new modules and new add-ons, and we bought those as well because they were really super and fitting. But that's the question that comes as well in the mind of people, that we have to really convey the value in that, and not just go and say, okay, just because the person isn't willing to pay 80, I'm going now to give a $20 discount and try to sell it for 60 again. Then you're back at square one. It's not going to help.
Yeah, it's absolutely true what you're saying about the positioning of the value. A lot of times people are reluctant, that I work with, to charge a higher price, but they know that what they're offering has more value than perhaps an offering of a competitor. So you need to be confident in your offering once you've done some research, but then convey all the value to your potential clients so that they can actually see that. It's not a time to be modest, not a time to kind of downplay all of the good things about your product or service. You've got to showcase it so people feel like, wow, this is great. I feel like I'm getting value for what I'm paying. And in your example, that $80 seems fair. So it's all about positioning.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to as well then see, okay, I have to focus as well maybe on a different kind of clients. Like, for instance, I was just recently looking at a product from a Swedish startup. Looks really interesting and really good product. But of course, the thing is, if you're positioning it to the wrong audience, they might sell a few because they maybe feel engaged and they want to support it, but it won't be enough to actually make it into a business that doesn't need to have things like crowdfunding and that, but actually can finance it itself and actually become profitable. Especially when I'm thinking with that, they're obviously producing it in a low wage country, the product itself. It's a bit of a contrast to the high wage of Sweden, which doesn't then really quite relate. But yeah, then they have to really position it in the right way and target the right kind of clients and not the wrong area. And the same thing if it's a product being sold in North America, and that there are certain clients who they will love it, and others they don't care. But sometimes even packaging can make a big change. When you just look, for instance, at Amazon and other brands, they take so much effort in the packaging and the experience, and you unopened. For instance, I just recently bought myself a rising table made in Czechoslovakia, designed by a Swiss company who has an organization in Austria. So it's 3 different countries that are actually all next to each other, but the product is really awesome and works great. But of course, they then go and say, how can we improve the experience? And now with, of course, this whole craziness that we're having here around North America and Europe and so on, shipping can be quite a thing. So my table's stuck for
Oh
14
no.
days in storage. Got damaged, but they eventually sent a replacement. So I have to replace one of the legs, but that was slightly damaged. But the thing is, you can package as well stuff in a way that you don't need so much plastics and other kind of stuff, so that people notice, oh, this is actually quite a good product. They've taken the time to even design a proper packaging. Notice the stuff is in a normal situation, well packaged, doesn't get damaged, and you then happily say, well, I'm going to go and tell others about this product, and they're going to buy the same thing. One of my employees as well, and I sent him a photo, and he said, wow, oh, I need to get one as well. Was discussing thing with a business partner who wanted to do stuff, told him about the thing, and he said, okay, next time I come and visit you, I must see that desk. That sounds really awesome. And he asked me, why did you buy that one? You could have bought something here in Germany. I said, no, I took that one because it has certain kind of design, certain things that I liked, what they positioned. And the interesting thing, that business, for instance, has positioned itself towards startups and small, medium-sized companies. So not corporates, but actually businesses with maybe 5 people to even 50 people or more. And they have small and big tables. So you have like 1.60 meters to 1 meter, depending on what your kind of work environment is. But it's awesome because even if you haven't got any back problems, it's good for you to sit and stand. And especially when we look at the trends, people are going to be moving towards home office much more than in the last few years. And that's going to change as well how we have to deal in actually with finances, because of course certain costs will go away, but if these costs have gone and the businesses are still not profitable, then they have to really go and think, okay, what am I doing wrong? What do I have to change? And that's something where they usually become blind, and they need somebody from outside to give them some advice and have a proper look, because maybe they just get so confused. Cannot recognize that. I saw on your bio that you do as well. You teach as well at the college, Centennial College School of Business.
Yes.
What are the topics that you do there?
Business school. So I teach students to work in the financial services industry. So they're training to be financial advisors. But I get to leverage a lot of my experience from banking, because I teach one class, corporate credit, where we're learning about cash flow management, financial ratios related to businesses, and loan structuring. So it's quite fun, and it keeps me in touch with younger students. Not all of them are younger, but also just different ways to explain things, which allows me to be then really versatile with the clients that I coach, because I can work with someone who has an auto body shop who repairs cars, to a medical doctor who has a practice, and they all have common challenges from a cash flow standpoint or financial standpoint, but the way you go about working with each one of those is different depending on their backgrounds and their experience.
Oh, yeah, that's good. So I think the episode was really good today. Let me quickly summarize. I made a few notes so that we have a look again. So usually entrepreneurs, as I understand, most of the entrepreneurs are usually bad at numbers. If they're having some kind of issues, they're not really sure what their numbers actually mean. And if they're doing something right, it's obviously they are managing cash flow properly. They might have, in some cases, good profits, but if the cash flow isn't in the right way, maybe the money becomes like a paper sale, and then they have issues. And that's why then lenders, of course, go and look at businesses that are offering an opportunity to grow. So they will actually want to support their growth and want to be sure to see, okay, have they learned anything over the time that they've already been doing business, and understand what they actually learned from the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur or being in business. And that's, I think, the core thing. And of course, the process leads us to make sure the ability of the company to make payments over a certain time. So what their financial capacity is in case there's something like, for instance, that we are experiencing now, where maybe some markets are not doing any business, and it takes some time until everybody wakes up again and suddenly starts ordering like crazy and wants everything at once. And that's something where one has to see how far can one actually survive a shortage of demand. And therefore, as well, important to build a good relationship ahead of time with lenders and understand as well what's the key thing, what it's important really for the lenders, what they're looking at, and what makes them happy and what makes them feel unsure whether it's a really a good thing to continue thinking about investing or even actually doing a kind of lending agreement with a business. And thirdly, then the businesses, and especially the entrepreneurs, the leaders of these businesses, they are not often really clear about the margin that they really need to be profitable in a way that they're able not just to cover certain basic costs that are clear and visible, but actually cover all other costs that relates as well to themselves and other services that they maybe at a certain time getting for free, whether somebody is working for them, friends helping them or whatever, that they have to be realistic eventually, that they might have to pay a realistic market price for the person. Because let's say the person goes and does it full time, they have to pay them a proper salary and they have to pay themselves as well as salary. And certain things they can do to take additional compensations out of the company. But even our tax and legal systems will always put a certain limit on what you then later on can take out, even if you go and say, well, the last few years I haven't had any salary, so I want to compensate and I have to do it now. But certain countries have as well certain levels of limits what you can actually take out. And that brings us then really to the idea, do we have enough sales? Do we need to increase the sales? What do we have to do? Can we increase the price? Is the audience that we're targeting the right audience that's going to buy at that price? Maybe we have to develop as well, maybe 2 or 3 different products that might be even able to help us to do that. That's something that one would have to think in a different context in a later time. But yeah, I think that's the core things that we've learned from today. And yeah, it was great having you here, Tracey, on our show.
Well, thank you very much, Christian. And I'd love to leave a gift for your listeners. So I know some people are probably intrigued about their finances and want to get started, but may not know where to start. So if you head over to cashcoach.biz, you can download a money meeting agenda, and I highly recommend that people start meeting with themselves weekly and get comfortable with it. So a money meeting agenda, and you can get it at cashcoach.biz, so that if you're feeling inspired today, you can get started right away taking control of your financial future. And sometimes just that first step will put you well on the path to financial fitness and to bring a little bit more clarity and ease some anxieties you may be feeling. So thank you so much for having me, Christian.
Thank you for being here. So the next episode will be about following topic. How can we use e-commerce to help us generate cash flow during this pandemic? We'll be looking into 3 areas. Understanding how you can turn anything into a cash flow source. Secondly, which platforms help you quickly generate sales when most businesses are dormant. And thirdly, how to use e-commerce to build a new dual-channel client base for after the pandemic. Well, that's all for today's episode of The Growth Zone. Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Spotify so you never miss an episode. Plus, if you haven't got your signed copy of the marketing book, stop by on our website at book.prmediareach.com and hurry, because the reserved batch of signed books are almost sold out. So, the address is book.prmediareach.com. I'll repeat, book.prmediareach.com.